The abuse, commonly called parental alienation, which is a layman's term, can already be diagnosed under several, not just one, but several existing DSM diagnoses. Of what I believe is the most important message I want to share with people. Again, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a parent who's lost a child. I'm somebody who was manipulated to reject my own parent. I'm somebody who lived through this psychological harm. And I'm somebody who lived through this misdiagnosis pipeline. Let me know in the live chat if you lived through it as well. Let me know. Hi, my name is Maddie, and today I'm going to be running for a girl named Ava. She doesn't know I'm running for her, and she doesn't need to know I'm running for her. But basically, she's trapped in a type of psychological abuse that I went through for 20 years as a child. So come along as I try to run as far as I can. This run is for Ava, and because I went through it as a child and I was made to reject my loving dad for 20 years, I'm also running for my dad. Let's go. In the live chat, if your child is currently in it. This is so important, so disturbing, and I wish everybody in society could recognize this. Here's what happens, okay? A child is experiencing abuse. In this case, it's child psychological abuse, and it's unrecognized. Here's what happens. The child changes. Suddenly, the child is not acting like themselves. Maybe they have become anxious, depressed. All of a sudden, your child is not acting like your child. It's like they've almost been, replaced. Something has changed in them. And as somebody who went through this as a child, I can tell you, I noticed the difference in myself. I knew I was not acting like I typically did. I felt depressed. I felt anxious. I was acting and feeling terrible. Instead of asking, however, what is happening to this child, adults ask, what's wrong with this child? Therapists, doctors, teachers, parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents, everybody, what's wrong with this child? So the child is diagnosed. Now, they could be diagnosed with a whole bunch of things. One thing, often it's anxiety, often depression, ADHD, OCD, even ODD. I've heard of that too. The point is they are diagnosed. They're put on a mental health pipeline, a medical pipeline. They're put on this road forward where they have a new diagnosis, a label. Perhaps they're put in therapy. Therapy doesn't work, of course, because why? Why doesn't therapy work? Because the abuse never stops.
So right now, I don't know in the boat.
Here's some information on how you too can take part in this campaign. Walk anywhere, choose your goal, and dedicate your walk. That's it. Simple enough. Share your steps and your photos. Let's come together and walk or run for the children who are kept from safely loving both parents. Today, I'm going to be running for a girl named Ava. She doesn't know I'm running for her, and she doesn't need to know I'm running for her. But basically, she's trapped in a type of psychological abuse that I went through for 20 years as a child. Here they are, folks. Here they are, right here. Let's go through them. So, firstly, it can be diagnosed as an adjustment disorder with mixed disturbance of emotions or conduct. A parent-child relational problem, a child affected by parental relationship distress, as well as child psychological abuse, which some people, like Dr. Childress, refer to as pathogenic parenting. Now, there's another diagnosis in addition to these that can be applied as well, that I believe what is particular to my case and would have protected me if it had been implemented, if it had been caught, and that is a shared delusional disorder. So basically what happened to me just 1 minute and then we'll get back to the topic, is that 4 years ago, I realized, oh my gosh, I've been living in my mom's delusional reality for 20 years. That's what happened. My mom had a delusional reality when my parents split and got divorced. She had a delusional reality that was triggered. There's a lot of psychology that you can go into about how that works. If you want to, I would recommend Dr. Childress or videos I've made about Dr. Childress. But her delusional reality was triggered. And in her head, she became a protective parent. My dad became a monster. And I became a child who needed to be protected from him. And she made me believe terrible things about my dad, that he didn't love me, that he's a monster, can't feel empathy, missing a soul. So naturally, I feared him and I was angry at him for 2 decades. I never once spent the night at his house. Very contentious relationship. And I had been very close with my dad until that point, until about 8 years old. I was daddy's little girl. So the loss of the relationship with my dad and the loss of the love that we shared was tremendously painful for me. And I'm going to get into what happened, but this is beyond my story, by the way. There are millions of children that go through this every day, and they're not being helped. And that's why I mentioned these 5 diagnostic pathways, because you cannot diagnose parental alienation. I know I talk about it a lot on my channel, and I mention that term, but when I mention it as a layman's term, not as a diagnosis. If just one qualified mental health professional had identified just one of those diagnoses during my childhood or my adolescence or my teenage years or even my young adult years, I would have been protected. I would have not spent 20 years believing I was unlovable. I wasn't good enough. I wouldn't have missed 20 years. I could have had a loving relationship with my dad. Moreover, and this is important, I would not have been misdiagnosed with a whole myriad of misdiagnoses. I would not have been over-medicated. Over-medicated with effects that last to this day in my body. I would not have carried trauma in my body that made me physically sick with some of those illnesses that I still suffer from today. This is so personal to me, if you can't tell. And yes, I am angry. I am. I feel very angry, very passionate about this topic, but I'm not just angry because this happened to me. I'm angry because this is happening to kids all across the world. Millions of children are living through this right now, while professionals argue over terminology. April 25th, I'm going to be running in honor of one alienated child every day. And yes, this is severe child psychological abuse. And no, I'm not in great shape. But maybe by the end of this month, I will be. So although I have my own organization called the Anti-Alienation Project across all social media, April is the month to really spread awareness and educate the public about this type of abuse, where one parent destroys a healthy, loving parent-child bond on purpose without true justification. To learn more and participate in my awareness campaign, which is a flyer campaign, please go to Facebook at theantialienationproject.com or YouTube, where you can find the flyers to post that have sayings that tip off alienated kids, like, do you have one bad parent or one good parent? They also have QR codes to my videos. Thanks for watching. With the psychologically abused child, more often than not, the cause of their symptoms, the harmful parent, is never removed. And so that child, more often than not, will not get better. The child blames themselves. It's safer that way. It's safer for the child to blame themselves than to consider that their parent is unhinged or unsafe